Hello and welcome to episode 39 of the Top 2 Inches Rugby Podcast, brought to you as ever by I Spy Surveys, the go-to specialist survey and inspection company based in Exeter, Devon. So, what is coming up on this episode? Obviously a fantastic weekend of rugby took place, the final of the Gallagher Premiership between Exeter and Harlequins. We'll review that one. We'll also dip into the British Lions warm-up game with Japan from Glasgow, from Scotland. Unfortunately, Ollie can't be with us this week. Our timetables to kind of do the recording haven't been able to kind of link up. I did ask Brutal Bob if he was going to be available, and during a phone call, he basically turned around and said that he doesn't really have a face for television, and I explained to him that this was actually a podcast and nobody sees your face, to which he replied, "Off, I'm having a chat to Gats." Not sure what he's on about there. Maybe he's trying to get the captaincy for the Lions, who knows. Anyway, I have waffled on enough. Let's just crack on with this episode. So, as ever, let's start with the news brought to you by the BBC. Something really interesting has happened this morning. The RFU Council have voted in favour of COVID recovery plan and a temporary pause on relegation from the Premiership. So they basically voted on the range of structural changes to improve the financial stability and sustainability of professional rugby during the next 3 seasons, while also providing benefits for England rugby and the community game. So this is how the recovery plan looks. It follows a detailed consultation that was announced in February after the RFU Council voted in favour of no relegation from the Gallagher Premiership or the Green King IPA Championship for the season 20 to 21. The extensive consultation included Premiership and their clubs, Championships Club, the RPA, the RFU Board and the RFU Council. So what does this even mean? So the changes will not be introduced. The changes that will now be introduced include the expansion of the Premiership to 14 clubs at the end of the 21-22 season through the promotion, subject to the required minimum standards of the winner of the championship, while supporting player welfare by maintaining the maximum game limits and guaranteed rest period, revised minimum standards criteria for clubs wishing to promote to the Premiership with wider game benefits such as financial sustainability, governance, player welfare, stadium facilities, medical provision, safeguarding and community plans. So the 2022-23 season, in which no side will be relegated or promoted to the new 14 Premiership teams, allowing clubs to plan with a greater certainty and supporting the recent promoted clubs in making the transition between leagues. The playoff in the 2023-24 season between the clubs finishing bottom of the Premiership and the winner of the Championship will result with the result to decide which clubs play in the Premiership during the following season. From August 2004, the intention is to move to a position where there is a mandatory England qualified system under which Premiership clubs must have a minimum of 15 EQPs in each match day. Oh, this is getting a little bit deep now. Increased preparation for England games. So right, here we go. So unless the council agrees otherwise, from the season 24 to 25, promotion and relegation between the Premiership and the Championship will revert to being on an annual one-up, one-down basis. Wow. I mean, that's a lot to take in the last kind of few seconds that I've spoken about. But that's the decisions made. There's going to be no relegation for the foreseeable future. I kind of understand where they're coming from. Obviously, COVID has a massive impact on the game, and at the moment continues to have a massive impact on the game. So I guess anything that we can do to improve the situation and make the clubs kind of more sustainable and improve the league overall, I guess is a positive thing. But for me, the jeopardy of relegation, it needs to be there. It makes the games more interesting. Obviously, we've said so many times before, there's the worry that there's going to be dead rubber games coming up. And yeah, all we can do is see what happens. The decision is made by people who get paid a lot more than we kind of do, and potentially maybe know a little bit more than we do too. So we'll see. Other stories in the news. Where are we looking at? Here we go. So Wasp flanker Morris has signed a new contract. Falcons fly half Hodgson signs a new deal. Ryan is an injury concern for Ireland's tests against Japan. What else is there? So possibly the biggest news that's kind of come out of South Africa, and my understanding is at the moment that South Africa is going into a level 4 lockdown, where no alcohol or cigarettes can be sold. And at the moment, it's looking like there are no fans allowed in to watch the Lions games. I don't know how, but it is obviously going to have a massive impact. Lions games, even the kind of midweek games, the weekend games, and obviously the test games, it's all about the fans, it's all about the crowd, it's all about the atmosphere. And this Lions tour is at risk of kind of obviously not living up to the normal expectations. And obviously there was also concern this week because there's been 3 players, I think, that have tested positive for COVID within the South African team. They've stopped their training. But now I believe that they've now been given the all clear to start training again. So, yeah, COVID is still having a massive impact on the game that we love. And I guess there is also my understanding is that there is a contingency plan if things don't go well and we can't play the kind of midweek games and the warm-up games. Then the likelihood is that this series will simply be a 3-test series with South Africa. How that obviously then works in terms of squad sizes and teams and players getting the opportunity to show their ability to be, up for selection for, probably some of the greatest series in ever. I don't know. I'm just glad that I'm not making those decisions. So yeah, really sad news. Just fingers crossed that COVID's off and just lets us have this tournament how it's supposed to be.
Hi folks, Brutal Bob here. Obviously Gareth can't do a podcast on his own without Ollie or me intervening, so I've had to step in on this occasion because during this section about Lions chat, you may hear Gareth refer to Jake Ball. For some reason, in his head, he's got it that Jake has been called up to replace Alan Wynne-Jones, when clearly this is wrong. Let's hear him waffle on about Jake, when he should be talking about Adam Beard, of course, and we wish him well on his call up to the Lions squad. Anyway, I'm going to go now, and I'm going to leave without swearing, because that means I don't have to fucking edit it out.
The weekend saw the British and Irish's Lions tour to South Africa start with a warm-up game at Murrayfield against Japan. Obviously, Japan have not played since the World Cup, and I kind of think that sort of showed in the first half. But they did kind of come back at the Lions in the second half. To be fair, from what I saw, it was quite a comfortable victory. The Lions came out on top 28-10. But obviously the most significant aspect coming out of the game was the fact that Alan Wynne-Jones, or Alan from Wales, has dislocated his shoulder and will no longer be the tour captain or indeed on the tour. I mean, this is a massive blow for the Lions, and I think you could really tell in his press conference after the game that Warren Gatland did look a little bit shell-shocked by what happened. But I think it's really important that the Lions really can't kind of dwell on the fact that they've lost their talisman, their captain. They have to keep moving forward, and Gatland has kind of done that by selecting Murray as his new captain. I think also it's a massive disappointment that Justin Tipperick also picked up an injury and will be out of the tour. Josh Navidi has been brought in for Tipperick. He's an absolute able replacement, no issues with that. Jake Ball has been brought in for Alan Wynne-Jones. I can kind of see the reasoning behind that. Obviously Warren Gatland was manager of Wales for a number of years. He knows Jake Ball. He knows how he plays. Personally, I don't think he would have been somebody that I would have selected. I think I probably would have looked to maybe go for somebody else. But in all fairness, I'm not 100% sure who else you could have gone for. Ryan is obviously an injury doubt for Ireland, as I've already mentioned in the news. Joe Launchbury, I possibly would have been the person for me that would have come in, but obviously he's out with his leg injury and is out for some time. Sam Skinner for Scotland, actually, I think he would have been a bit of a like for like, a physical replacement for Alan Wynne-Jones. Obviously not the captaincy, but he would have offered that kind of more dynamic ball carrying, hitting rucks, tackling, aggression that you see from Alan Wynne-Jones. So I think, and he's had quite a good season for Exeter Chiefs and for Scotland. So I think he would have been my replacement. But, Gats gets paid the big money to make the decisions. And again, Murray as captain, I'm not 100% sure. I think probably scrum half is our weakest position at the moment. And I guess by selecting Murray as captain, he's kind of saying that he is going to be starting the 3 tests. I don't think Murray even captains Ireland or even Munster. So what his kind of captaincy experience is, I just don't know. But what I will say, this is his 3rd tour with the Lions. He's a vastly experienced international. He's a quality player. There's no taking away the fact that he's a quality player, but it's just whether he can put those dynamics of his personality into leading the British and Irish Lions forward to get this victory and win the series over South Africa. Only time will tell. I guess he's going to have to throw Murray into the mix early on in the kind of warm-up games. But as I said, they might not even happen now. We don't know what's going to happen because of bloody COVID. So we'll see. Again, I think I potentially would have made Owen Farrell captain, but is his form good enough? Bundy Aki came out of that game against Japan playing quite well. I thought he was quite one of the standout players. Alongside Robbie Henshaw. Josh Adams, I felt, had a really good game as well. Courtney Laws came on really early, obviously for Alan Wynne-Jones. And again, I thought Courtney Laws stood up and played really well. I like the balance of the back row that they had out on display against Japan. I thought they worked really well as well. Tag Furlong, he was putting in some monster runs and some good hits. Looked solid in the scrummage. So lots of positives have come out of the Japan game. But obviously, the Lions are now over in South Africa. They've landed. They're in the kind of recovery stage from the long flight. They need to start, they need to figure out what's going to go on and how they're going to do things. I don't honestly think we saw much of a game plan from the Lions against Japan. I think Warren Gatlin is a man that likes to keep things close to his chest. And I don't think we have seen everything that the Lions are going to offer when they go up against the Southern Hemisphere teams. So the Gallagher Premiership final between Harlequins and Exeter Chiefs took place over the weekend. Last week, Oliver and I really struggled to kind of put into words how Harlequins had beaten Bristol Bears at Ashton Gate in probably one of the greatest games in Gallagher Premiership history. This final did not disappoint. This final was, let's just use some words, ridiculous, passionate, consuming, brutal. Everything you wanted about this game, we got. We got tries, we got the lead changing hands at various points in the game. We had a sin bin in, It had everything. It literally had everything. And obviously it was a dream victory for Quins, who came out on top in the 80 minutes, 40-38. Louis Liner scoring a couple of late tries towards the end of the game and taking the championship away from Exeter Chiefs. I just want to talk about elements of the game. Quins obviously got off to a fantastic start, a bit of a switch play in the line-out move, and you could just tell from the off that Quins were up for the game. Scoring a good early try or a penalty try earlier on, and then Johnny Hill going to the sin bin. But Chiefs aren't a bad side. Chiefs are a good side, and obviously they came back into the game. I think over the last few weeks, I felt that that Chiefs weren't at the races. And at the end of the game, Baxter actually alluded to the fact that he had also been feeling that way. Now, I'm not saying I'm tuned in with Baxter or anything like that, but I think it's quite an obvious statement to make. You've got to look at the fact that this season was congested. Exeter had a really tough season the season before, winning the title and winning Europe, double champions. And to carry that on with hardly any break, it's going to take its toll on the players. And I think you could definitely see that. However, that's not taken away anything from the Quins team. The Quins team obviously had that massive game, injury, extra time game against Bristol Bears the week before. And you could see that halfway through the second half, you could look like the Quins players were tiring, they were on their feet. But I think they just had this belief that they were going to win. The old guard, Marler and Danny Kerr, stepped up. Marler was absolutely fantastic, earning the man of the match. And for anybody that says that front rows don't win games or front rows aren't important, it's ridiculous. Front rows do win you the games. They bring the stability in the scrums, the lineouts, etc. And it was just so fantastic to watch how dominant they were in the scrums against an Exeter Chiefs side who themselves are bloody good. I think what you've got to take into consideration as well is that Exeter have, if not the best defence, on paper in the league, whereas Harlequins, without question, are possibly the worst defence in the league. They do let in a lot of tries, but then they do also score a significant amount of tries as well. And looking at some of the statistics, so the ball in play was actually in play for 36 minutes. The ball out of play was 1 hour and 6 minutes, which is a bit crazy. What else are we going to look at here? So total carries for Exeter, 142, 106 for Quins. Meters made, 451 from Exeter, only 391. But the most telling statistic to come out of the game is the ability to score in the red zone. And, Quins 100% took what was offered to them. They took their tries. I mean, Don Brandt's try was fantastic. Wilco Lowe's try was fantastic. Again, a prop. Power over the line, doing to Chiefs what Chiefs have done to so many teams over the season. Tackle success, Harlequins 90% tackle success, Exeter 86. Turnovers 6 for Exeter, 9 for Harlequins. Turnovers lost 12 for Chiefs, 14 for Harlequins. Defenders beaten 19 for Chiefs, 21 for Harlequins. Line out success rate, 92% for Quins, 100% for Chiefs. Scrum success, 100% for Quins, only 80% for Chiefs on this occasion. And I think it was just a fantastic game. I don't think you can really say it's it's not fair to say that the Chiefs lost the game, because I think ultimately the game was taken from them. They just couldn't cope with what Harlequins were offering from an offensive perspective. One of the best teams in terms of defence, letting in 40 points in the final. Again, Baxter alluded to that in his post-match speech. It's crazy. But this has been a weird old season, and it's come to an end. Harlequins are the champions of the Gallagher Premiership, thoroughly deserved. And I don't want to harp on again about Joe Marler, but man of the match performance, put in a staggering performance against Bristol and backed it up again this week. Do we think Quins can continue this kind of vein of, positive rugby? For me, I think they need to get they need to improve their defence. If they improve their defence, then potentially they are going to be pushing for top 4, pushing for honours each season. But who knows? Who knows what's going to happen next year? All I can say is well-deserved victory to the Quins. Obviously, Harlequins Ladies also won their league this season, again beating Saracens in the final. So this year has been a fantastic year for the Quins team or Quins club as a whole, and hats off to them. Some news that I also forgot to mention is that Smith and Don Brandt have been brought into the England squad for the summer internationals against the USA and Canada. Again, totally deserved. Smith needs to be starting. We need to be looking forward at what this kid can do. This kid is magical, absolutely magical. So yeah, fingers crossed he goes well. Don Brandt goes well in the summer games, and fingers crossed for another fantastic season for Quins next year. So that brings episode 39 of the Top 2 Inches Rugby podcast to a conclusion. Thank you as ever for tuning in, downloading, listening, subscribing to our little podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. What's coming up over the next couple of months, or months, shall I say? We are obviously going to be reporting on the Lions games over in South Africa. If there are the kind of warm-up games, I'm thinking of doing a little ride along during the games and then reviewing the actual test matches with Ollie. We'll also check out the summer internationals, primarily the English team, because obviously we are English and we are proud to be English. So we'll be reporting on those. As ever, we are on Twitter at Top2InchesRP and over on Instagram, available on all major platforms such as Anchor, Spotify, YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Just leaves me to say thank you once again to iSpy Surveys for continuing to sponsor this podcast, and we will be back in your ears very soon.